The Mojave Desert is no stranger to high strangeness. A number of qualities lend the area no small amount of mystique to both the casual observer and the seasoned scientist. One of its most famous denizens is the Joshua tree, an iconic plant species native only to that specific region of the world. The area of the Kelso Dune Field is known for its singing dunes, which produce an eerie sound at 105 decibels. The wide open vistas and rugged landscapes, which are often said to provoke a sensation of both spiritual wholeness as well as supreme isolation, have drawn visitors and residents to the high desert for decades. But it's not just the natural oddities that are a draw to the remote communities of the Mojave. Set in San Bernardino County is a large, white, domed structure that could easily be misidentified as a UFO. The impressive building is not a planetarium or an observatory, but it was allegedly built with the idea of becoming a mechanism in which a human could extend their average lifespans on principles handed down from extraterrestrial visitors. This case file joined the theorists as they drop in on the long-lost cousin of the Randomotron, known as the Integratron.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing. Case file 252, the Integratron. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
Before we even get going here, a lot of people may not know what the Integratron is, but we actually took a lot of the concepts and put the Integratron plans into the making of the Randomotron. Furthermore, our resident expert, Andrew, why don't you give us a quick rundown? Just a quick synopsis.
On the Integratron?
Yeah.
Oh, Braden's just trying to get out of the quick us saying, you had nothing inconvenience you this week. You could show up.
Me having nothing inconvenience?
No, Braden.
What would I have? Oh. No, he's just trying to put me on the spot.
No guess.
Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
Little do you fucking know.
Yes, I was hold on.
Okay.
Yes, I was inconvenienced last week for one case file. You're absolutely correct. And I would never stoop so low to allow an inconvenience to make me miss 3 or more episodes. Ever.
Never.
What about a vacation?
Ever.
Yes.
Never. Never.
This is not an inconvenience to me. What's coming up? This is
what do you mean?
It's
What's
a vacation. How is that a fucking inconvenience?
not someone sleeping on the floor of your computer room.
Yeah, this was all. The room looks great now because there's nothing in it because there was an air mattress before, as it held Mama and Papa Conspiracy for
double wide.
Yeah, good old air mattress.
Good visit.
I was gonna put him in a tent outside, but
You should put him in the fucking
your trailer.
It's not done.
They don't need any walls.
It's not done yet.
No.
What about? You don't have a spare catio or something like that? You could have pimped out for him.
I probably could have whipped up a catio pretty quick. I can make those in a day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Andrew, give us a rundown on the Integratron. I know you're an expert on all this.
You keep putting me on the spot because you think I don't know, but I do know.
He knows.
Yeah, Integratron. He's the most moral and honest of all the Autobots.
Yeah,
this is true. Yeah, it checks out. Yeah.
No, listen. I'll be honest with you. I fucked up pretty bad. It's super embarrassing. So I looked at Dan's notes, and I always wanted, like, Dan makes great notes, but I like to like try and bring a little bit of something extra to the fucking to the case file every once in a while. Maybe some notes he hasn't seen yet, anything, whatever. So I looked at the fucking poll. I'm like, oh, okay, right on. Integration. Integration of what? And I sat there and I'm like, integration of aliens. So I put in integration of aliens, integration of like cryptids. And then I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I know what the fuck's going to happen is I'm going to like, so boys, like What do you mean integration? Like, Dan, like, what are you talking about? And I knew Dan's gonna be like, well, like, it's the integration of the intergalactic alliance and the homeostasis between juxtaposition of flux capacitors.
Oh man, that sounds just like
it
me.
would have made me feel like an asshole. So I was like, I'm not gonna ask him. So I looked up integration of everything. And then today, I would pop open the notes. It's like, I better know the notes. You know, I should do a quick breeze and just not have my own notes. Yeah, Integratron. That's not integration. Not at all.
The dyslexia strikes again.
So wait, you don't want to give us a quick 3-minute rundown of integration?
You want me to?
Yeah, I kind of do.
There's the thing. I typed in.
I mean, you did the work. You did the legwork. You might as well.
I searched my ass off the integration because I was like the integration aliens, the integration conspiracy, the integration UFO, the integration fucking, you know, because I'm like, what the fuck is that coming up?
Now you're an expert in integration.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was going to be like some like that. That's like the big integration, you know, like watch out.
Some big event you missed.
The integration.
I know that's, yeah. So anyways, fucking dipshit, right? I'm like, fuck. That's good.
Yeah. That's great. That's an interesting. Maybe we'll talk. Hey,
that's a
save
different
those
case
notes.
file.
Those
Yeah.
will not go to
integration.
waste because we got a power hour coming up tomorrow. So we'll talk all about the integration
Perfect.
of cryptids, conspiracies,
Aliens, UFOs, you name it.
You name it.
Yeah.
Whatever can be
Pretty good.
integrated, we will discuss it.
Whatever
on the
can be
power hour.
integrated will be integrated, and we will talk about it.
This one's fascinating, and this one is an interesting one for me because the creator, George Van Tassel, he says that he got these plans. First, he was, had telepathic communications that someone gave him plans. And I know someone who has shown me designs. And they said, "You're in aliens?" Well, I hope you don't judge this. They've talked to me in my dreams. And they've given me the designs for this. And this person's drawn them up. And
You know how they gave him those? Through integration.
All for
Human alien integration.
He goes, he's like, I don't quite know what it's for. He's like, I think it's some sort of drive, but I've only ever been given bits and pieces of it. And I know it's unfinished, but I think it's for some sort of drive that I've been getting these plans for. So it's interesting when I see a case like this where someone else has been like, I was given plans, and then this person actually acted on it and started designing something based on these plans. So it's kind of fascinating that, I've met someone who said, before I looked into this case, who says the same thing. He's been contacted with plans, and he gets them, every couple of years he gets a new piece.
Did you
new
meet this
part
guy
number to add onto it.
fucking sitting outside a 7-Eleven with a cardboard fucking sign and kicking cups at you?
I have access. No, this guy's he's an actual beauty.
Hey, that was saying the
I have
homeless
access to him.
community is
I could phone him right now. Like we're on.
Maybe an after
Well, I'm
hours.
just saying.
Maybe an after
Maybe
hours.
after
Give him a shout.
But get him to talk about it because listen, this guy knows everything that we think we know. If we think we're subject matter experts on all this stuff, this guy blows us out of the water.
I've never
He
even.
knows everything about everything.
Well, I wonder what he knows about integration.
Yeah, not a lot.
Not as much as me.
But anyways, let's get into Integratron.
The Integratron. So out in the unincorporated community of Landers in the high desert region of the Mojave Desert in San Bernardino County, Southern California, there is a large circular wooden 2-story hemispherical umbrella dome structure that was built by, as Braden mentioned, one George Van Tassel, which started construction on it.
That's a name for show business, boys.
George
Van
Van
Tassel.
Tassel.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
and
is
listen,
Tassel.
if you ever listen to this guy talk, he has like a 1950s narrator voice.
Zero pizzazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is remarked that he was a very personable and a very friendly person. Like, it's to get this stuff out of there, like pretty normal guy from all descriptions. Like, he is a forceful personality, but made people we'll get into it, but as for his past, so George Van Tassel was from Ohio, and he moved to Southern California in 1930 at the age of 20 to work in some of the aviation industries that were beginning to proliferate, post World War II and all those, like during World War II and all those. And so Van Tassel ended up working for Douglas Aircraft until 1941. Then he ended up moving over to Howard Hughes, the legendary Howard Hughes. Awesome. Howard Hughes.
Old piss jugs himself.
Old piss jugs himself. Spruce
Mr.
Goose.
Fingernails.
And he actually, it said that he ended up, the final leg of his aviation career was done at Lockheed Skunk Works in Burbank, California.
So was he like a engineer, like building the craft, or what was his capacity at working on aircraft?
He was just working on stuff, and I think he claims that he worked on some pretty interesting things. Like he was putting this stuff together and working out with engineers and those kinds of guys. So
what was his title? Like what did he?
I'm not sure exactly what.
I couldn't really find it. Yeah, what exactly he was just part of the projects.
Yeah, I mean he could have been fucking putting bolts in the planes. Like he could have just put
his job was cleaning up all Howard's piss jugs,
sanded down the screws,
the piss jug guy.
Do that, smoothing out the screws and whatever.
He was in charge of chucking them over the bridge.
Yeah. But he made enough, or at least a good chunk of change, because he eventually applied to the Bureau of Land Management for a permit to operate an airport on 2,600 acres of public land in 1945. So he has this airport. And he talks about this in an interview, and he talks about, when I talk about airport, I'm not talking like it's just a long stretch of dirt
landing
out
strip
in the middle of the desert. It's what it is.
No baggage claims?
No baggage claims. No phone. The closest phone, apparently, as he said, his closest phone to the airport was like 14 miles away. Like there's no phone at this airport. And he gets asked, like, I was watching one interview.
It's for drug smugglers
only. So how do people land their plane at your airport? He's like, they just land and then they just call or something. Like they just land there. I'm like, what plane is just like, I'm going to land at this random ass airport out in the middle of the desert? I don't.
The
1940s were wild, man.
Drug smugglers.
The pies, Dan. The pies.
I just imagine that's like, it's like those days of like driving down the highway and all this stuff. And it's like people just had their own planes and were just flying around and just, that airport looks nice. Let me just put down there for a little bit, get a bite to eat. And I was like, I don't know if that's how it
cigarette.
Works. Yeah. So in 1947, George and his wife and his whole family of his wife and his 3 daughters moved to what is known as Giant Rock, and they began running this airport and a cafe, which they named the Come On Inn, which I thought was pretty clever. I thought
that's great.
It's pretty good.
That's phenomenal.
I thought it was pretty fantastic.
The backstory behind Giant Rock that was pretty nuts, eh?
So you talk about Kreitzer, the Kreitzer guy.
That's nuts.
You got to inform.
Dan, do you probably have a better one than I did?
I have some because I did
something to do with a Nazi that blew himself up underneath the rock.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, all eloquent and shit.
When George first moved out there, I think he had been working with at an automotive repair shop, and then with him, one day this guy. What was his name? His first name, I can't remember. His last name was Kreitzer, and I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. Right? Hans Kreitzer. So, okay. It kind of stopped in one day, apparently, after he had suffered a automotive breakdown of some type. And then kind of when him and Van Tassel started talking, and they kind of got along pretty well. And, and he kind of asked, like, he got him on this idea of kind of like building something out here. Like Kreitzer kind of had the idea that he was going to build pretty much like an underground facility. Like he was going to dig out like a cave home underneath Giant Rock. Like he was just going to build that. Like that's what he was going to do.
Like not even a real home, just an actual cave.
It's like a giant, he blew out a fucking cave, like over, I'm not sure, like a couple of years, Kreitzer like ended up like kind of blowing his way into the ground, exploding his way into the ground with a bunch of explosives and stuff, and mining out a pretty good sized facility, like a home. Like he lived there.
This old bastard took one episode of the Flintstones way too serious.
Yeah. I mean, he had this whole place kind of, he had it all dug out and everything. I think he was living there alone with his dog. And, and him and Van Tassel got on phenomenally. They were good friends to all accounts. Like, Van Tassel would take his family to visit Kreitzer regularly, and they would hang out inside his giant cave home. And they would kind of just hang out in there. So over the course of the years, Kreitzer came under scrutiny from some of the local authorities, and they had kind of gotten reports that there was this, this is just post World War II. Everything's kind of a little bit crazy now. We're still hunting Nazis. Cold War is not in full swing yet, but they're still hunting Nazis, and so you got these reports kind of filtering on down to the local authorities about a German man, kind of strange, a little bit eccentric, building out, using explosives to blow out a some type of underground facility. So if that doesn't kind of...
Dude, the 50s were the best.
Red flags up.
So you're kind of like, okay, yeah, that seems kind of strange. So the authorities kind of got involved. And so what exactly happened is not 100% clear, but from kind of reports I got kind of put together, a picture of what happened was that essentially that the authorities kind of showed up and were like, hey, we're getting these reports about you. We're coming over here to check out. Like, can we have a look at your home? Like, can we go and investigate? I'm not sure if there were reports of explosives, dynamite that had actually gone missing from an area. I think it was I don't know if it was from the military base or it was from another place that like a mining operation.
The 5-finger discount, baby.
So they were kind of like, that was also, they're concerned like, hey, some explosives got missing. We've heard.
Yeah, we lost a bunch of dynamite from the Acme fucking warehouse.
Yeah.
And so
everyone knows as long as you work there, it's not stealing.
And so kind of the general consensus of what happened was that Kreitzer invited these authority, these in. I think there were local sheriffs. I think local sheriffs and maybe one federal agent. I'm not sure. And then he invited them. And then when they got down there, essentially it was, you're never going to take me alive. And also there might've been tear gas and go, not sure. And explosion, Kreitzer and his dog dead. I think
the dog.
Some of the authorities were, I think maybe one or two of them either killed or injured during that confrontation that happened. And so that was the end of Kreitzer. And
so they suspected him of stealing or being involved in the stealing of dynamite, being a German spy. So they go to
check him out.
Go check him out, and they end up he ends up dead.
Yeah, I can't remember.
So he was a German spy?
He shot at them, or he was.
Well, they made the old mistake of bringing guns to a dynamite fight.
Yeah, big.
Yeah, but Kreitzer's the only one that went boom.
Yeah,
and his dog. And his dag.
And his dog. Yeah.
Wait, so he was a German spy then? Is what we're thinking.
Most likely.
Most likely, because he
had to be.
He blew himself up.
Well, I mean, he said, "You're never going to take me alive," and then blew himself up. So I'd say
he's leaning.
Chances are leaning towards
Das. Yes.
The odds are das good.
Yeah.
So after the Kreitzer episode, Van Tassel and them are still living out there, and then I think like the possession of that facility like eventually came into Van Tassel's hands. Like Van Tassel's kind of took it over, and I think he with his wife and 3 daughters had kind of planned on either like near there or whatever, because I watched another documentary about it and they have like where they actually were kind of living at the time, like because there was no house really that they lived in, like in some notes that because Van Tassel ended up coming under investigation himself, and some of the things the authorities kind of when they were checking him out, they said that they were basically sleeping outdoors, like they were
living like a primitive life.
No house.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with camping?
So once you get past that, during the early 1950s, Van Tassel started hosting these Friday night meditation sessions, and Van Tassel was claiming to have received after hosting these for a while, he claimed that he was receiving telepathic communications, which he called thought transference, which were coming
mind integration.
mind integration.
There you go.
You could say that. And he said that he was receiving these mind integrations from a group of Venusians. Venusian extraterrestrials.
And that's obviously, because of all of our diligent work on all these case files, we know that as the people of Venus.
I mean, yeah.
We could be considered experts on the topic.
Yes.
Good chance they're floating in sky cities in the
that's the
fast-moving atmosphere.
Planet, eh? Like that's the the sexiest people we talk about, the Venusians.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Smells off the top.
Dripping with sex.
Whenever you hear sex jelly, it's Venusian.
So Van Tassel actually so he goes on to have these sessions, these meditation sessions. People start gravitating towards it, kind of coming in, and so during this time, like to put it into context, is that you have not only is kind of Van Tassel having the whole communications Venusians. I mean George Adamski, which I don't think we've talked about like a couple times. We've touched on it, but I don't think we've done a whole case file. And George Adamski is also a famous contactee around that time, but I believe he was in contact with some Venusians as well. So all of this stuff is kind of going on. So people are hearing about this and they're coming out there and exploring these, these ideas of what's going on. Now, Adamski claims that the first of his psychic transmissions came to him on January 6th of 1952 when, quote, Luke Boone, senior in command, First Wave Planet Patrol, Realms of Share, contacted him. He has Van Tassel wrote a number of books, and he has I think his second book, he kind of detailed out the communications that he received, and they are pretty something. They're all kind of like Luke, the one that I described just now, and then it's kind of just like, first command, we are having trouble with communications, peace and love. Remember, like it's just kind of all of these things that are kind of coming through, and so he ended up taking like these ideas of these benevolent extraterrestrials were sending him, and he incorporated them into his philosophy for an organization that he founded named the Ministry of Universal Wisdom.
Oh, I thought you were about to say
that's a cool name.
What was the cult that they all died because to go join the spaceship? Heaven's Gate?
That would be Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate one?
Yeah.
Wasn't that around the same time?
Yes. Kind of, yeah.
There was a bunch of UFO related cults back in this time.
Yeah, he was not the only kind of one. The Ministry of Universal Wisdom was not the only kind of
that's
alternative.
A great name, though.
Philosophical organization kind of popping up at the time. There were a whole bunch, and especially in California, but there were a ton of them kind of popping up, along with Scientology. There's a couple other ones that are all kind of like the International Organization for alternative knowledge and like there's a whole bunch of them during this time. All
with good, nice metaphysical titles.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and,
Universal Wisdom.
And at one point, Van Tassel got his hands on a printer and added like a printing press or something, and he ended up publishing a quarterly newsletter called Proceedings, which he goes out to. These were like quarterly. Basically, a lot of it were just like rants about how the Bible was kind of be taken literally. There's a whole bunch of biblical stuff like in there as well. Like he kind of talked about how I'm pretty sure he's like in the Bible they describe all these things, but he was also of the opinion that the people in the Bible, there's at least some sections where he's like pretty sure Jesus was an alien. Like he
I've been saying that for a while.
Has to be.
So
Zell's
Jesus
been
was
preaching
an alien.
that for centuries.
The three wise men were aliens. What they said, like the Adamic races were actually aliens.
Dan,
what's
I
the
got to
Adamic
interject here
race?
to tell Zell something here. In Campbell River, there's all these I don't honestly, I have no idea. I know there's some sort of Christian, but they're always like dressed really nice on the side of the sidewalks with like a Bible stand, and like they'll be like, do you want to learn more about Jesus Christ? And I always walk past them on lunch and stuff. And I was walking past them, and like, do you want to learn more about Jesus Christ? I was like, are you going to teach me about how he's an alien? And they both were like, huh? I was like, how do you think he had all those powers? And they were like, huh? And they both like looked at each other and I just kept walking. Blew their minds.
You just converted him, man.
Yeah.
I've been living a lie.
Then I saucered our
Do you
business
want to know
card.
more?
You saucered our business card, then they're going to find us on social media and send us messages virtually to try and convert us digitally.
Fantastic.
Oh no, that's how it happens.
That's how it happens. They just need one document. They'll track you down.
Easier to give them to alhamdulillah.
I love that you said that to them, though. I'm going to
Proud
start.
of you when I did it.
Yeah. I'm going to start knocking on people's doors. I'm going to play the same game.
Spread the word.
Yeah. Yeah. You should follow them.
Go
You
door
should
behind.
follow them. Door to door, right behind them. And be like, hey, you hear the bullshit they're trying to peddle?
Listen to
Listen
this.
to
Yeah.
It's like, I got some way
smoking
better.
a big J. All right, man.
Can I interest you?
Buckle up.
This is how it really is. So Van Tassel's Ministry of Universal Wisdom and his entire kind of
Which consisted of him and his wife.
no, I mean there were at least 100 people.
That's a cult.
Like at least
Boom.
100. Because he was like, he ended up like, I'm pretty sure like his main source of income at that point was from people who were donating to the ministry. I think he had it incorporated, but it's like the Ministry of Universal Wisdom. People were donating to it, staunch, the people who were his, I guess you could say, followers at the time, were donating money.
Hey,
and he was pretty much using that and putting it towards his ultimate project, which we'll get to in a little bit.
These are the years
But,
before, like well before Patreons, right? This is,
Mhm.
this
I
is
mean, it's
before
crowdfunding.
crowdfunding.
Oh, yeah.
But this is crowdfunding.
Mail order Patreon.
This is
baby.
OG crowdfunding.
OG.
Yeah. And so his kind of his thing, the fame of like what was going on there, and when we get to the Integratron, Van Tassel grew kind of a community around his entire thing, and he ended up founding, or at least like starting, the Giant Rock Interplanetary Spacecraft Conventions, which he personally hosted for 20 years.
So this is before. Cool. This is like the precursor of MUFON kind of style.
That maybe
or precursor Alien Con.
Yeah, also Alien Con.
The OG. This guy started everything.
Yeah, he had the attendance like ranged from what they said, maybe like the first one to maybe the largest attendance was like somewhere between, they said 3,000 people and 11,000 people, like 11,000 people being like the peak at some point. You had 11,000 people driving out here, parking their cars and hanging out and having, Van Tassel come out there and give these big speeches and stuff. And especially when he announced at one of the conventions that he was deciding to run for president in 1960 and that his friends from Venus were going to help him run his campaign.
Man, even at the low end of that scale at 3,000, I mean, that's respectable. That's a good festival. 3,000 people.
And that's in the age of like, there's no internet. You're like, this is word of mouth.
Flyers.
And
door knocking.
Flyers and door knocking and stuff. So that's pretty good. And like, this is like early days UFO. Like Roswell just happened. Stories are starting to trickle out here and there of these crafts, interrupting flights and pilots saying they've seen stuff like that. But like, it's early days. So he really is a pioneer of getting people, like-minded people together.
And he's good at it. 3,000, 11,000 people. I'm happy, dude. I'm happy with 150 people at a show.
So naturally, when you have a strange, to some extent, a strange at the time, relatively, I guess, a strange, charismatic person having a gathering of kind of alternative-minded folks happening on a regular basis. This, in the 1950s, would naturally attract the attention of law enforcement because...
We got Manson and shit, right? Like,
well, you have those things, but also communism. Like that was the big thing. The big C word is that's what's going on. So the FBI...
Did he run for president? I'll circle back to that real quick. Did he end up putting a bid in?
Oh, I don't think so. They just said he was again going to run for president.
I was just wondering if
they said he ran for president.
I wish he gave some speeches about it.
I mean, yeah, he gave some speeches, but you'd still have to get you'd have to get the nomination. We were still very much a two-party system. Like, Get the nomination from one of the parties. Like, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, get the nomination from fucking space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're in, man.
So the FBI ended up getting alerted because someone kind of associated Van Tassel's activities with communism, and they were getting reports of him having these meetings, and people were worried that, you know, some kind of like communist enclave was kind of going on here. And this is where you get the there is a very, if people want to look it up, like you can, there's a very large file on George Van Tassel and his activities at the time with the Ministry of Universal Wisdom. Like there's a couple really interesting copies of the proceedings, like those newsletters. Like they actually have like copies of those on the actual FBI website. Like they have a bunch of them. They're kind of they're an interesting read through there. Kind of a look back at that time, like a very fun snapshot of what was going on around that time.
So he's a person of interest to the FBI at the time.
Yeah,
he was a person. Yeah, he was a person of interest.
Activities with communism. I mean, that was thrown around pretty loosey-goosey back in the day.
Well, anything. I think they had like at one of the organizations.
You gelled your hair in the morning.
Like,
if you put international in front of anything, there was like
shared a piece of your sandwich.
Communist.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's where you got the report because apparently in 1954, an FBI agent had gone out there. I think multiple agents had actually gone out there to kind of assess like what was going on. Like they had actual talks with Van Tassel, and people kind of going and posing in as just, regular travelers, people just kind of stopping in and having talks with him. And they just said that the college that he had of the Ministry of Universal Wisdom was, quote, nothing but a cave dug out beneath a giant rock. And that Van Tassel and his family lived in primitive conditions. They were pretty much sleeping outside. Like that's what they said. So
primitive.
Right.
Just shitting in a bucket?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't think they had plumbing out there.
No, doubt it. They're outhouse or...
They didn't have a phone. They didn't have a phone out there. Like the closest place, like I said, it was like 14 miles away. He said it was the closest phone. So yeah, it's a very interesting
rugged
place. But apparently it was the perfect place to receive instructions for the Integratron, which we can probably talk about after the break.
Which is perfect time because I was just going to say.
Like the jig of the glass. All right, we'll be right back.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
Back.
We're back.
It's the beginning of the Integratron. So
is it too late to ask for another beer break? Because I slugged that drink back. I got a refill and then instantly I'm like, I got like 3 sips left.
Dusted it.
That's the way she goes.
So in his 1956 book, Into This World and Out Again, Van Tassel talked about his first actual physical encounter with the beings. So he had been having these mind transference, mind integrations with the Venusian races, but he actually claims to have had a physical encounter with some of these beings on August 24th of 1953. So his claim goes that he was awakened by a member of the Council of Seven Lights who identified himself as one Solganda around 2 a.m.
That's a strong name.
Solganda.
Solganda. I feel like there was a hand sign that went with that every time it was said.
Solganda. And so this was around 2 a.m. Of that morning, and he was taken onto a spacecraft which had landed at the airstrip, which he had been operating. When Van Tassel was taken outside, he's not When he talks about his encounter in a couple of interviews and stuff, he talks about like he's not really sure how he got out there. It's very much one of those, you've heard of him before. This type of encounter,
where abduction story, baby.
Yeah, abduction story where he's kind of taken out. He's not sure how he got outside. He's not sure how he was awakened, but he was just kind of knows that he was awakened by this member of the council. He was
awakened by mind integration.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a concussion. He's giving me a lot of concussion symptoms here.
And so the ship that was awaiting Van Tassel out on the airstrip, he described as being a kind of bell-shaped craft. He described it, gave an estimate of about 36 feet in diameter and about 19 feet high.
The Glocka, baby.
Yeah, we were just talking about Nazis.
Oh,
the Glocka.
shit.
Right? That's what I thought when I saw this. I was like, oh man, is there a chance that what he's encountering here is actually the Glocka? And maybe these things were also in touch with Nazi Germany and Chrysler and other
well, maybe that's why
fucking
Chrysler was going under the rocks. He knew they were coming.
Chrysler.
What's his name again? Chrysler?
Chrysler.
Chrysler.
So, and when they boarded the craft, Van Tassel said that they used some type of anti-gravity beam, or at least that's what he kind of just described it as. He's not really sure how it worked, but it's just that this beam kind of just lifted them off like being on an elevator from the ground into the ship. And when he got on there, Van Tassel said that Solganda was the only one who actually communicated with him vocally. Like he was actually like talking to him using his voice, identifying him, stuff like this. But there were three other Venusians, extraterrestrials on this ship, which
snooty, eyebrow, man. They want nothing to do with him.
And they were all communicating. He said that they were all kind of talking to each other.
Glasses and shit.
Yeah, they were all communicating with snooty looks.
And they got those really long
Their
cigarettes, like
with the holder,
Corella DeVille,
the cigarette holder. Yeah, the long
martini glass and long cigarette.
Yeah. Yes, he did describe them, what they look like, and everybody thinks that they're typical Greys. No, he described them as the youthful white people with a good, healthy tan and of average human height.
You know what the problem this guy is? He just can't say brown people.
White people with a good
white people with a good tan. No, they're fucking brown. It's fine.
That's so funny because I didn't even think about that.
Like, he's supposed to say they're fucking brown. White
brown
people with a good healthy tan. They're brown, man.
Yeah.
I guess So, how healthy is the tan? Like, what are we talking here?
Were we talking Dan and Andrew healthy? What are we talking about?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not sure what healthy tan was back in the 1950s. That's a relative term.
No, that makes a lot more sense in the 50s now.
Yeah, this is true.
Admit it.
Yeah.
This advanced race is brown.
People. No, of course
Get
not.
over it.
White people, they were very tanned white people.
They're about as white as Jesus.
Yeah.
While he was on board, this is when Van Tassel said that he was giving the formula that would become integral to building the Integratron, which he described fully as F equals 1 over T. F equaling frequency and T being time.
Yeah.
So this is the standard equation of hertz.
Yeah.
Frequency, interval.
Yeah. And so this is the equation that said he was given, and that this would be the foundation of the Integratron. And so after he departed the ship with this equation, in his head, it was conferred to him, not exactly like kind of everything about it, but this is just what he was, he had this idea of what he was going to build. Well,
like this equation was known.
It's frequency.
Yeah,
it's
by Venusians.
Yeah, but no, I'm
invented by Van Tassel.
This is
Solganda.
Yeah, but this was also known by other humans during this time and before.
Well, you think the Venusians only had contact with one human?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Well, he just
hey, you got me.
Well, I mean, he's just giving a fancy way to say like just frequency.
Yeah,
like, he gave me this equation. He's like, well, yes, everything we know has a vibrating frequency of some kind. Sound, radio waves, light waves, all frequency.
Made electromagnetic
but it's not
spectrum,
like,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is we're not when I'm pointing at it, I'm like, when you say E equals MC squared, you're like, that's Einstein. He came up with that shit, right? He was the first guy. No one's going F equals 1 divided by T, 1 over T is, that's Van Tassel. Like no one's saying that because that was around before
Van
him,
Tassel's
right?
equation.
It's not the Van Tassel equation by any sense of the meaning.
So
they gave him information.
They gave him information that
was already known.
Well, that he would use, and they said that but you could use this equation and you could apply it in such a way that you would be able to construct a machine of some type that would be able to keep people, extend your life is what he was saying, or something that you could build. You could use this equation to basically construct a time machine in a different sense, like not in the sense that you can go back in time, but I don't know. It's like, we'll get to it. I'm just like, it kind of just like,
from what I read, it's like through his encounters with these ETs, they explain that the reason humans are pretty much useless is because we don't get smart till we're old and we die.
Right.
So in that case, you have to extend human life to be as smart as the Venusians.
Right.
So you must build this machine using this formula in order to extend your life so you can join the ranks of the high galactic empire or whatever they call themselves.
Yes. That's what he left with. And to kind of, prove that, Van Tassel, I guess, had asked Solganda like how old he was, and Solganda told him he's like, I'm 700 years old.
I'm Yoda.
It's looking good. Like I'm 700 years young, I guess.
Just hitting my prime.
Just hitting my prime. And so, so after this encounter, Van Tassel began to conceive and plan out the construction of the Integratron, which would eventually take form as this 16-sided dome constructed entirely of wood that would be dimensions were about 38 feet high, 55 feet in diameter, and that it would be built completely without nails or any type of metal fasteners.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. Yeah.
I'd like to think that they gave him this. The formula, not so much of like, wow, like look at this. It's like apply this formula to a structure, and they gave him the idea for this, and it's like it's all in one. So it's like I hate when I read it and I was like, it doesn't make sense to me that they came down like, here's this equation. I think they gave him all the tools he needed. They gave him the idea for like, if you build a structure with this equation in mind,
they will come.
They will come. You will not age.
It's the feel of sounds.
Feel the sounds. Pretty much is what it is.
They will bathe.
So the entire thing would be built on a central, they said it's a 1-ton concrete core, which holds the structure's extra curvilinear wooden skeleton in place. And there was copper wire that was radiating out or emanating from in spirals outward to actually the entire circumference of the structure. It was also supposed to have this, I guess it's a rotating and floating armature with these 64 aluminum
like spikes.
rods.
Yeah. Aluminum spikes going up the side.
Collectors, they would call them. And these were all designed to act as a type of gigantic capacitor, which would collect, they said, they're given estimates of up to 50,000 volts of static electricity from the air in order to charge the human body. And that's what it was. So
motherfucker made a taser.
He actually, getting the money together and stuff like this. I mean, he had there was a Los Angeles based architect named Howard Payton Hess that he actually paid to draft the structural plans of this thing. And it is constructed like it is in some form, like it's very basic form that they put together. It does exist, and it is kind of neat.
The actual built, the structural part, like the wooden orb is built and standing and still is used.
It's very much like a UFO
day.
sitting out in the middle of the desert. Like
so pretty much. Sorry, Bryn, go for it.
Go ahead, Zell.
I was just saying the reason. So when you read that, so they say no metal fasteners, no bolts, nails, anything, because it's going to interfere with this static energy collector. So instead of using that, this is all like glue lammed, like curved, like fir beams, wood beams, and then doweled together. It's pretty, as a woodworking project, is like
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Right.
Now, the other thing I was thinking of is like when you look at this structure and what you're building it for, it seems like a weird thing to you're just like, you know what, I just want to build this. But like, now, Zell, like, imagine if you legitimately had contact with some sort of extraterrestrial.
I do.
Telepathically or, and then they visited you and they gave you these plans. Would you not feel like that is your purpose now to make sure this structure gets built?
If I woke up in the morning and pretty much burned onto my retinas is this vision of this building that I have to build it this way, how do you not do anything else?
Right.
Exactly. And that's my thing. It's like, because I'm like, this is a big thing to task just for like shits and giggles. They're like, oh, I'm just going to build this and see if I can, make money off it somehow or con people or do anything other than like, I look at this and I go like, it seems to me like this guy wholeheartedly believed that his purpose was to build this thing that he got the design and the ideas from extraterrestrials.
You know what's super like familiar to me with this? And it's like similar, it seems like a similar story. And it makes me wonder if maybe this other story had something to do similar with, Venusians or aliens, but like who else in history, specifically biblical history, got fucking told that they needed to build something and given designs?
Moses,
right?
Fucking Moses.
Yeah.
Or Noah. Sorry.
Noah.
Both of them.
Noah's Ark. Yeah.
Both of them.
Oh, no, Moses built the
Moses
church or
received
something.
the instructions for the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Tabernacle, yeah.
The tabernacle. I think it's pronounced tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
First of all, but
Yeah.
But also, yes.
But the other thing I was going to mention, I don't think we talked about, like, there's something special about this area too. It's like on some type of like fucking magnetic vortex or something like that.
That's what people say.
That was the claim. And that's why it was built there in order to like amplify the vortex of the
Even
point.
Skeptoid said they couldn't disprove that though.
I don't think anybody can.
Oh, okay.
But no,
it's
but
true.
I thought the funny
It's
thing
true,
was
yeah.
like, there was this little part in the documentary that I watched that was kind of funny because it was like they were talking about how its idea. Okay, kind of there's these two kind of ideas of what the Integratron was going to be built for. Van Tassel originally said that it's supposed to be a kind of time machine, not that's like the H.G. Wells like going to take you back or Jules Verne, whatever, to take you back in time machine, but that it would allow you to look through a window. And he was talking about that he'd actually like the concept that he was coming up with, he had done before. Like they had experimented with this, and he said like some of the people that he had worked with in the aeronautic field had come up with this thing where they said that in an interview talking about the Integratron, he was saying that they had managed to catch using these principles that are behind the Integratron to catch these.
Can you edit every time he says that and like give him like a real robot voice? Like, straight Megatron.
I should have been marking them as we go.
Like what? That's how you say
The
it.
Integratron.
No, it's gotta be like fucking real robotic.
He was saying that they had managed to catch they open up a window and they managed to watch a TV program from 6 years.
He made
prior.
a PVR.
This guy's invented everything.
Well, he was saying that that's what the Integratron was kind of meant to do. You would be able to open up windows and you could look back on the past. You could see Roman legions marching. You would be able to see, you'd be able to look at the Renaissance. You'd be able to look at Leonardo da Vinci's works when they were originally built. All these things. That was kind of like the very first initial thing. But then
the idea of it, yeah.
But then later,
didn't Tesla
evolved.
have something similar where he could see the past, present, and future at the same time? Or the claim is that he said this?
Right, yeah. But Tesla claimed a lot of things.
How was Tesla was connected to this guy too?
They said that his ideas were kind of based off a Tesla coil. Like he was saying, because when you look at models of it, there are some models like, because you can go there and visit and they have a little museum and everything. There's a concept where it's like basically they have like a Tesla coil lined up next to the Integratron, and that would be what would pass the current into it. like infuse it with electricity.
Into the
Integrate the electricity.
Integrate the electricity
from the Tesla coil into the Integratron.
into the Integratron. Those aluminum like collectors around the outside were supposed to like rotate on bearing, like a giant bearing system or something. They're supposed to rotate, and then there'd be a giant Tesla coil that would like charge it up. That was, and then
vaporize every person inside.
Well, it evolved from being a time machine, and at some point in its development, Van Tassel pivoted and being like, what was going to happen, or what the Integratron was meant to do, is that it was going to recharge and rejuvenate the cells of the human body with electricity, because cells in the human body are, according to his theories, were batteries, so they could be recharged with electricity and therefore rejuvenated, and then therefore extend the life of the average human.
So that's where
they could be depolarized and repolarized, which essentially can restart life.
Well, that's a good point. But what I was thinking is that like maybe he got these ideas in the plans, and because it does sound like he kind of flip flops of what what this thing is supposed to do. So maybe he wasn't given that aspect of it. So he's just left to guess. He just knows he needs to build this thing. Like he's been given information. He just knows he has to build this thing, but he doesn't necessarily know what the end game of it, what it does. So he's just left to guess as he's building it and looking at the plans going like, this is what I think it's 100% this. And that changes as he keeps going, but he doesn't actually even know what the structure does.
Sure.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, he could have been in the middle of building it, and then he came across the works of one Russian scientist named Georges Lahovsky, who's his first iteration of the multiple wave oscillator.
I was wondering why it's being called a commie.
Lahovsky actually wrote a book, and it was called The Secret of Life: Electricity, Radiation, and the Body, Your Body, in 1929. And that was the concept behind, having cells from living organisms basically being tiny radio transmitters is what he posited. He was kind of, doing all these experiments with, frequency modulations and all these things. And then, having the human cells being sensitive to certain oscillations or frequencies, and that you could perhaps manipulate these, with some type of therapeutic device, electromagnetic device, and you could cure diseases from. This is all stuff he was kind of just, he was just kind of throwing out there. He was going to be, he's kind of like, yeah, maybe we could apply these in a way that we could apply this stuff in that type of method to treat these things and better human life, for lack of a better word. And so like we said, the location of the Integratron is part of its function. Like they built it out there, in this geomagnetic vortex that is supposed to focus the energy in order to amplify the Earth's natural magnetic field.
It's like a ley line.
He would be able to, yeah.
Like it's a ley line, a lay point.
But what I thought was kind of funny is in the documentary they made there was just like a little comment where they were talking about that. And it was just like a couple of seconds, but I was like, that sounds kind of funny, because out in the desert is super dry, right? It's a really dry place, right? So you have problems with static electricity. Like you can walk around outside, and they were talking to one guy, and he's like, yeah, you just walk up to somebody to shake their hand, and it's just this, and it causes all kinds of problems sometimes, having static electricity just build up all over the place. I'm like, is this really why you want to build like an electrical device where you'd have to manage that?
Like, they want the static. They want that energy.
But they would interfere with the other stuff, maybe. So that's what I would think. But I mean, yeah, maybe they were harnessing it somehow.
Well, yeah, if you're basing your works off Tesla, and he's trying to pull energy from the ionosphere or static charge,
why not
here?
Build it where it's where it's already.
We're gonna build this copper grid around this orb, and then we're going to take the energy from the atmosphere. And then when they realized it was not so feasible.
Yeah. So Van Tassel sunk a good chunk of money in this. And then, I think most of the reports are saying that most of the money that he got was from his, the Universal of Church of, the Church of Universal Wisdom. Or whatever.
Universal Wisdom.
Universal Wisdom.
He was getting donations from there and other kind of people coming in and donating because people would come around from all over the place. Apparently the come on in was actually pretty popular with the
pies.
Locals.
I was mentioning it earlier.
It was the pies and the burgers were actually pretty good. It made me pretty hungry when I was
a couple dirty burgers and a pie.
Yeah.
While you fly.
It's definitely
people would come in there and stop by and kind of visit and kind of become George was just like a local guy. He would hang out in there all the time, and then people would just kind of, he'd strike up a conversation.
Just he doesn't have a real job. Building Integratrons.
Minding the airport, I guess, that 14 miles away for the closest phone. There's an emergency or something. I don't know. That's crazy. That's still weird to me.
It's a pretty good, it's a pretty good crowdfunding solution here because this thing couldn't have been cheap to build. They hired an architect.
No,
all of that.
No,
it was I think they got at least a couple $100,000 into it when they built, and so
at that time, that's $1 million or whatever.
$5 million.
It's a good chunk of change.
$5 million, and millions of dollars.
So the main structure of the Integratron was finished in 1959, and according to reports, like they were getting ready to test it. Like it was getting ready to do what it was supposed to do. And the original idea was like, Van Tassel said, like, basically what you would do is kind of like, you would go in from one side wearing some type of white suit. I think they were saying some type of white protective or conductive suit, something.
Again with the white.
Yeah. And then you would walk.
It's the 50s.
You'd walk around in a precise arc.
You got a fucking hood on it? Just out of curiosity.
A tanned white man.
Yeah.
People want to parade those processions things. Those are a wild trip. If you want to read a quarterly newsletter written by somebody back in the 1940s and 50s, certain ideas were popular back then about the ethnicities. So you were supposed to proceed on like a certain, I think it was like 270 degree arc. Like you're supposed to travel around and then kind of walk out the other side, and then you would be rejuvenated. Once it got turned on. But
this was his guess, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't even think he really knew what would happen.
What do they turn on? What's happening here? Is it like
So what it was supposed to happen, like I said, it's like the collectors on the outside, like from what I've seen, is they're supposed to turn and
so like the Gravitron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy went to the local fair.
Like a carnival ride.
He went to the local carnival, rode the Gravitron. I was like,
all right, now you're speaking my language.
Integratron is the first Gravitron.
They got
you
probably had the same safety. It had the same safety level.
No safety.
Gravitron. No safety inspections. This definitely was not on. I don't think any state board safety inspector came in and looked at this thing. But so what was supposed to happen is those collectors on the outside were supposed to rotate around. And like I said, there was supposed to be some kind of generating electrical coil on the outside. And then bridging that gap would be the electrical current between the two. And as those things spun, and then that would go down into the electrical, that copper coil that is radiating from the inside. And you walk around and it recharges your cellular batteries.
So you're supposed to walk into the dome, walk around 270 degrees, go out the other door, and it was supposed to revitalize your cells.
Yes. That's the final iteration of what was supposed to happen.
That's what he thought would happen.
What he thought was going to happen, but instead, George Van Tassel died.
Oh, man.
Before
he get electrocuted?
Well, I don't know. Andrew, can electrical shocks cause massive coronaries? Can that happen?
Sure it can. Why not?
It can fucking definitely. Well, not like coronary syndrome. You're going to have some type of blockage in your coronary arteries, right?
But couldn't a big electrical charge just pretty much vaporize your heart or something?
Anything, it could just throw your heart into an arrhythmia or just fucking stop it.
Right. Yeah, just turn. Yeah. That's a good point. So he could have been electrocuted. It could have worked. And the reason that they said it doesn't work.
Well, he wasn't in the Integratron when it happened. He apparently had a coronary at a nearby hotel and died. So at this time, George had remarried. He had his second wife at the time. And so there is some dispute about there's still some suspicions about what was happening because, again, George was under federal watch. He's on a list. He was on the list, and they were looking at him about what was going on at the Ministry of Universal Knowledge and what was going on. And he so his second wife apparently either in the few months before they were getting to the lead up or whatever, they had changed his diet. There was all these kinds of things about saying that perhaps, his death was not so accidental.
Well, he's eating too many cheeseburgers and pies.
No, it's because he created the Integratron. It was a threat.
Well, hey, it's not only weird about that though. Like, didn't he died and then she had him fucking cremated right away before any of his daughters or anyone could see him.
Pretty quickly, yes. Yeah.
Right?
Pretty quickly.
And not only that, apparently his second wife had already been married twice before, and both the husbands died mysteriously.
Yeah. Some sort of Black Widow scenario.
She apparently had some level of obsession with Aztec and Mayan culture. People were saying that she was a frequent visitor to the pyramids in Mexico, and that she would come back.
She was a frequent visitor to the Mayan Riviera.
And she would come back, and I guess one of her hobbies was to make some pretty interesting paintings based around the human sacrifice rituals of native Central Americans. I guess that was her thing.
So she slowly sacrificed him by getting him fat and salt and shitty foods.
I'm not sure. They said she changed his diet, and I'm not sure if maybe she changed him off the I'm not sure what she changed.
Well, she
his
probably
diet to.
this guy probably went to the doctor and listen, dude, you're gonna fucking have a jammer. You're eating like shit. You got to start eating vegetables.
Right.
Maybe do a little exercise, and maybe that's
take a couple laps around the Integratron.
Yeah, he's like, no, I will continue to eat a steak and a scotch every night.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm going to turn that thing on and I'm going to rejuvenate my cells and I'm going to be good, right?
Yeah, well, that's why he created it. So he can eat whatever the fuck he wants.
That's one of the biggest mysteries of this to me is that the Integratron at the time of his death was only 90% complete. And it has never been completed.
If it was 100% complete, he never would have died. Guy would live forever.
Yeah, shortly after his death, they said it was 90% complete, but right after he died, days after, people were saying that they were stripping that thing. There were people coming in, taking it apart, scrapping what they could. People had to come in and tell them to stop. People who were supporters of Van Tassel's work. And actually stop people from pretty much just ripping everything up and taking
the amount of copper and
aluminum, everything,
aluminum and stuff sitting there. I'm sure this was ripe for thieving.
Yeah.
How old was he when he died?
He died as 1978 is when he died. I'm not sure how old he was off the top of my head. I have to look it up.
He's old. He wasn't a young man at that time.
No, he was not young. He was probably in his late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
So
he's born in 1910. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So
68.
Yeah. So
he's in the danger range of heart failure for.
You've been eating burgers at the Come On In for long enough, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the average lifespan in this time?
You're dying of coronary is that's normal.
Well, they couldn't do it. I don't even know. I wonder when was the
first stent
invented?
Stent?
Yeah, when was it?
Mm-hmm.
Could have been too long ago.
Yeah. So after he died, and they went to go on to try and preserve at least a piece of his legacy. That dome kind of passed into different hands of different owners. At one point, they were going to somebody bought it and they were going to turn in 22. What?
72.
72. Okay. And so, but they couldn't have got out there. He's like, dude, like I said, the closest phone was 14 miles away, a local town.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's at a hotel,
but even if they're going to take him probably get them to the hospital is probably pretty quick, I assume.
Well, it was the 50s. Were they still taking people to the barber for all this kind of shit?
It's true.
Leech them.
Toss some leeches.
lobotomy and send them on
Yeah,
his
we're
way.
fine. Yeah, it's
They're
good.
good.
Punch them a couple times in the chest, get it started. Yeah.
Prescribe them a pack of cigarettes and tell them to fuck off.
Yeah. Take a couple of glasses of scotch.
What kind of smokes are you smoking?
Yeah.
You
Switch
gotta
over.
get
Pack of
premium brand.
Marlboros.
Switch over to the
Stop
high
being a pussy.
tar ones.
There
This is
you go.
the penner ones. And so the Integratron passed hands a couple times. Like I said, they were going to turn into a disco, which I thought would have been really fucking cool. And then a couple other times down there, and it kind of fell into disrepair for a while until the dome's latest owners, which are three sisters apparently from the East Coast, named Joanne, Nancy, and Patty Carl, who bought the property in 2000. And then, fortunately, I guess for everybody, because now you can go out and see it, and we don't have to worry about it being like completely torn down. In 2018, it was actually added to the National Registry of Historic Places, or at least nominated for consideration. Like it's out there, so I think they actually have something there. It's because it's still out there. It's still maintained.
You can go for a
It's
session.
maintained by like the parks, isn't it?
and the sisters who live there is a good thing because it is a trendy tourist destination. It is a really popular destination. They usually have, they said, between 20,000 and 30,000 visitors a year. You come visit.
Dude, you go for
the
what's called a
Integratron.
sound bath.
Yes.
That's what they call it. So they have a bunch of like crystal bowls.
Yep.
And I imagine just the shape of that room being like a dome like that probably has really cool reverb sound.
Yeah.
Well,
And
they say it's acoustically perfect.
Yeah, it's a well constructed wooden dome, and they said that it's very, that is one of the byproducts. Maybe it's not conducting electricity, but it conducts sound.
How long until they start having
It's very
concerts there?
Yeah,
No, it's
What's that band? A band
they've recorded
a
in
song
there.
there.
They have recorded in there.
Oh, cool.
I did see that people have used
is
it.
it the Aquabats?
Yeah, or something like that. They recorded a song. I can't remember who. Modern use. Where is it? The Arctic
Live at the
Monkeys.
Arctic Monkeys.
Oh,
Arctic
fucking
Monkeys.
They recorded
Arctic
their
Monkeys.
song
What song did
"Secret
they-
Door" in the Integratron in 2008.
Oh, fucking
That's cool.
Art of Monkeys are awesome.
Because that would give like a really wicked sounding reverb in that big dome.
And so, yeah, you can go there today and go check it out. And, they have this, watching the documentary, there's a nice little layout in there. They have a bunch of different appointments a day where they kind of, you go down, you can relax on a couple, they got a lot of cushioned mats out there. You can go while they play or manipulate, basically like the Mongolian singing bowls, like or Tibetan singing bowls, that they have like a number of crystal bowls that they go around, they play, and they allow the frequencies to bathe you in peace.
You will
and
feel
relaxation,
refreshed
I suppose.
as you exit the sound bath.
Yes. And they claim has a number of beneficial therapeutic effects for everybody to go visit. I mean, I didn't read any bad reviews. I don't think, like not a whole bunch of them. It's just a cool place to visit. Like it's very much one of those things that you see on the side of the road that you'd be like, oh,
I'm in.
And
Go
next
on,
pod
stop
trip, Zell, bring your axe and shred in there.
Oh,
That'd be awesome.
Well, again, I mean, to me, it's an unbelievable shame that all this time has passed. And this guy basically had begun to make this his life work to start this thing up, whatever it did. And I don't believe he even knew really what it did or what it was going to do. I think he was just guessing based on readings and stuff that he was doing and what other people were telling him. But it was at 1.9, and it's probably less than that, but at 1.90% complete. And no one's taken the time to be like, hey, let's finish it. Let's turn it on. Let's finish it.
They don't know
Let's turn it on.
how. Like, how do they know?
I guess they lost the plans. Yes,
Yeah,
they
I know.
did.
It surprises
All of
me that
the-
the Venusians didn't entrust anyone else with these plans if they wanted it built that badly, though.
Yeah, they said shortly after all of his stuff that there are reports that all of the things that he had, like either his second wife, some people were saying, somebody accused his second wife of burning a lot of his notes or throwing them out, getting rid of them.
Maybe.
I allegedly.
Maybe the Venusians were in danger of being extinct. Somebody was coming to wipe them out. They knew it was coming. Somebody's coming to their planet. Their last hope, send a probe to fucking Earth. We got to find somebody smart. We find Van Tassel. We need to build this fucking time machine. Go back to fucking time because
Save our planet.
you gotta save our planet and go back in time.
Well,
Work for Michael J. Fox. Fucking do it. Right?
Yeah.
Look at all the entire population of Venusia or Venus or whatever the fuck.
Venusia is better.
Disappearing just like this fucking Polaroid.
Yeah.
Right?
And Van Tassel was not,
Figured it out.
he didn't forward thinking enough to like keep a lot of notes or anything. Or people were saying a lot of the documentation and a lot of the stuff that notes that he made about the Integratron's construction or its operation, all gone. Nobody has any copies of those. Or
His second wife was
somebody has them and they're
fucking
just locked
sleeper
up
cell.
somewhere.
Well,
She was an agent
Yeah.
for the FB or for the MIB.
For the reptilians.
She killed him.
For the
And got
reptilians
rid
who
of all
hate
the
the Venusians.
Hey,
right?
maybe Van Tassel, maybe he was onto something. Maybe through what was the Russian guy's name he was copying?
Kohovsky?
Maybe through looking at his work, he came across this idea and he's discovered that because we know everyone. It's like it's common. People know that everything has a frequency. Organs have frequencies. Your spinal column, the bones in your body, everything has a frequency. So maybe he was onto something with the. If you vibrate a frequency, you have cancer of this organ, and you can find the frequency of it, and you can vibrate it. The resonant frequency of that cancer through sound energy will be disintegrated or something. Maybe he was onto something, and maybe the powers that be, the ones who make all the money from healthcare, they did it. It's a big conspiracy. So I thought about that. But it led me somewhere completely different after I started going down that rabbit hole because it was too confusing. So then I just got on the like sonic weapons, like infrasound weapons. And then I went down this rabbit hole of how much energy it would take to actually kill someone with sound, like blow up their head. So this is what I went on an hour rabbit hole of reading about how much energy it takes to disintegrate your organs. And the results that I came across, I mean, granted, not a ton of research, but what I came across was astounding. So I'm going to do a quick one here. So the international agreed upon measurement of sound is a decibel. Everyone's heard about that probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very complicated formula of how to get to it. I don't really remember. All I remember is for every 10 decibels increased, volume doubles. That's pretty much all you got to say. So 40 is twice as loud as 30, but 40 is half as loud as 50, and on and on and on. It goes up and up and up and up. So what you get to is, so like a power saw is like 110, 120. So if you just run that for a while.
Oh yeah, you could kill someone with a power saw, no problem.
Well, that's a different case file. We'll get to that one. But just the sound of the saw running is that loud. So
Sure.
if you continuously run a saw all day, if you didn't have your hearing protection, you would realize, your ears are all fucked up.
You're supposed to have, was it single at 60 and then above 100 is double? You're supposed to have double ear protection. That's what I remember. Stuff like that.
I don't know if the rule is 100 is not super loud, but like a gunshot, like close range, like 140. Jet engines, 160.
Yeah.
A grenade or an explosive at the epicenter, like 190. 200 will cause death. It'll just the pressure of the sound waves will just kill you.
Oof.
And then a sonic boom is 213. So as I mentioned, so every 10 is doubling. So if you think of a sonic boom at 213, and then you the epicenter of an earthquake's 240.
How close would you have to stand to a sonic boom though?
That's at the boom itself, boom,
Oh, okay.
right when it booms.
You got to be right.
You gotta be
in front of
standing on.
Giles' fist.
Yeah. Sonic boom.
Anyways, and then the loudest theoretically possible volume is 310, and they would have said that would have been the volcano at Krakatoa.
Sure.
And what it came up in the end was to actually disintegrate, blow up someone's head, was about 240 decibels.
Wow.
I don't know.
All right, play it.
Ready?
We've got that sound right now. and you're dead.
You're all dead. Anyways, I thought it was interesting because, like, what if we're not even close to, maybe it'd be 400 years from now, we do have because there is like a lot of laser stuff now, right? Which is technically a frequency of some kind, right?
Electromagnetic frequency.
Light frequency. So like we're kind of onto it, like targeting certain cancers and stuff with these lasers, or, I mean, they use them for kidney stones, and obviously we don't have it to actually disintegrate cancer, but perhaps give it 100 years, 200 years. So maybe at this time, I don't know when chemotherapy was invented.
Long time ago, and has not been changed.
So, I mean, cancer's terrible. Everyone knows someone infected by cancer. So that's why people say, like, so because there's a lot of money made off of these type of things. So what if he was onto something? If you're going a conspiracy route, all his work's been burned. His thing was never finished. That's all I got on that.
And then,
what if?
The plans are gone. Yeah, it is interesting where it's like this thing is now just it's being discussed as a disco, and no one knows where the plans were. And it seems like this guy, like when you're watching interviews with him, like he did aggressive interviews with Scottish hosts.
I mean, we do know, like, we do have a history of ultrasound being effective in like tissue and like tendon healing.
Yeah, right. It has some stuff to it.
I think it has something to do with the heating of it, though. I'd have to look. I don't forget.
I wouldn't even start to try and say I know anything about it. But it just seems like if everything does have a resonant frequency, and you can harness that of such a thing, and you can get it vibrating and kind of get to disintegrate or regenerate, in this case, your cells at the right frequency. Mm-hmm. That would seem like the most non-invasive healing or treatment.
Or these fucking Venusians had just given this guy an earthender that when he turned it on at this point, like the resonant frequency just fucking destroyed Earth.
It starts vibrating Earth.
Yeah. Just done.
Planet killer.
Yeah, it is a interesting evolution of the Integratron about what it kind of turned into. Originally, like I said, it was supposed to be a time machine, and then turned into a cellular rejuvenation machine based on the properties of electricity, I suppose.
What if, like, here's another thing, not to make this go on any more than it has to, but like, okay, so maybe it wouldn't be effective for stuff like cancer, but let's say it's like certain type of like soft tissue injuries and stuff like that, where time is the one thing that is going to heal this.
Like a knee injury or something?
Yeah, like that, and essentially that's like it's speeding up the time in the process. Let's say you have like fucking a hamstring, a first, second degree hamstring tear.
Right.
You go in this machine, it speeds up the time and accelerates the healing.
Oh, it dials into the frequency of the injury, and then it basically it speeds up the time for that specific
injury.
That's interesting.
But that ends up making you like 2 years older in the process. Ages your whole body.
Yeah,
you walk in and
turn your hurt more like systemically. That's not great.
You've deteriorated more than it's worth. You walk out with a long beard. Actually, you go in there, you walk around, you come out with 1 month beard.
Praise the Integratron.
Miami feels good though.
Yeah, I feel great, but my tinnitus is
terrible. Oh yeah. That thing would have been fucking loud, because Tesla coils are fucking loud. Like those things are insanely loud. If anybody's ever been to like or watch videos,
yeah,
of, like,
when they
Tesla
zap
coil
like
show,
that,
like those things are super loud.
I love when they make the Tesla coil
things whirring around the aluminum collectors. Like I think it'd be loud as fuck.
Have you seen when they make the Tesla coil like play metal songs with the frequencies?
Cool.
Oh, it's so dope.
But those things are really, really loud, louder than you think they are.
They fucking have a Tesla coil, and they like program the frequencies which make the certain notes, and they can play like metal songs, and it sounds badass.
Insanely loud.
I want to hear Blackened. Metallica.
Yeah, and you could program any song, but it'd just be zapping sounds instead of the timbre of the instrument would be a little different than guitar, but you get the idea of it.
Yeah, it's rad.
So if you're ever in the San Bernardino County, Southern California area, get us some pictures of the Integratron.
Have you been to the Integratron?
Have you? Yeah. Have you been there?
Or just send us on a pod trip there.
Send us, sponsor a trip.
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah. We want to go to the disco.
Happy rad.
Absolutely.
That would have been a wicked disco.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you've ever been there, let us know.
Yeah. It's too bad it was never fully complete and actually implemented.
It should be. Well, I guess we can't, but
they've converted a lot of the inside. Like the inside is more.
I'm sure it's far away from his original vision.
Yeah, it's more targeted towards their concentration on the sound bath
yoga
concept.
studio now.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a sweet place to yoga.
That's what they do. They have yoga classes and a whole bunch of stuff there. Somebody get us a picture of their program as you go there.
Hey, it's 30,000 visitors a year. They charge $50 a person.
I don't think so. I think it's not that much. It's not expensive.
That's what it said on the website.
$50.
The sound
Holy
bath.
Shit.
The sound
Here's
bath.
a picture of the outside. Don't go inside. Don't pay $50.
Buddy, we gotta get into the sound bath business.
This is a shared sound bath. $50 per person.
I'm not paying $50.
50,000 people times $50. Man, they're making $2.5 million a year.
There's no way that all those people go to. No, they get the Integratron gets visitors, but that's like people who stop there. There's no way that all those people go inside
and get a sound bath.
It's $28. Is 28 people in the sound bath at once. 1 hour session. How many sessions a day? It adds up.
It does.
I don't think. Yeah, I doubt it's $50 for just to go see it. But
hey, listen, let me manage that place. Let's cut that hour down to 15 minutes. All right.
You play all the. You shorten the sounds like all to like one little burst. Just like get out.
Deal.
On the first session, you actually hurt their ears. You hurt their body with sound, and they have to come back for another healing set. Oh, it's genius.
Yeah.
You just take
you got to sign them up for at least 3.
And then you just like shorten
3
it
sessions.
into short, tiny bursts, like a 1 second burst. Perfectly balanced. That's the Integratron. Integratron.
It's cool.
All right. We got a theory of the week.
We're going to give it to Bandito Frito for the amazing comparison to yours truly, Braden, with Brett. Is it Gelman or Gelman? These guys, guy from Stranger Things
Gelman.
with the beard, the balding.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me they're not the same people?
This is Braden in 10 years. This is him. It's amazing.
Yeah. Let me honestly shoot Stranger Things the casting crew, because if they need a stand-in for, or like a flashback when he was younger.
That's you.
I mean, here's my question: have we ever seen them in the same room together though?
We have not.
No.
No, you have not.
I mean, his beard is a lot
better
better than Braden's, but
and Braden's.
Well, I gotta grow mine out though.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't even have a lip. This is how good his beard is.
Yeah. No lip. This is true.
It's just a fucking face of hair.
But thanks, Kimberly. That gave us a good laugh.
Yeah, it was funny.
We loved it. We got new merch. Me and Dan are wearing it.
We love wearing our own merch.
I'm obviously rocking the Mitra shirt, and Dan is rocking the Maester shirt. I like the quality. I like the designs. Head to the merch store, grab yours today before they're gone.
Well, they're always there. The designs are different.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this right now, when this comes out, you're gonna have 1 day.
1 day.
Yeah. 1 day to get that one.
Do it.
Awesome. And if you're not supporting the show, you know by now where to go. AlienTheorist.com. Skip those pesky ads. Support your favorite podcast. Support your boys. We'd appreciate it. This week's newest supporters.
We got an entire year. Woo! By Yim, definitely not Tim. Guy's an OG beauty.
Yep.
Guy's been a fan for a long time. Good dude. We got Brian Hubbard, Wyatt Halliday, Daniel Colston, and Derek Dolph Zollinger.
Love it. We got Jackson Kemp, Robert Baracletti, Khalid Torres, Anthony, Harry Balls is back, Deborah Bushi, Michael Valeriana? I think I got that right. And Steve Ludden, thank you very much for supporting the show.
Woo! And as we always say to these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.